Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to stop into DT Performance and check out the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about PTFE hose. In all the videos I've made on the Project S10 over here, I thought, I've made PTFE hose and I've never really went into detail about what it is, how it's made, the tools used, advantages, disadvantages, and all the things you can do with it and some things to look out for, the tips and tricks that I've learned while using this type of hose. We're going to look at some of the fittings, the hose connections and things like that, as well as at the end of the video, I'm going to make the final hose for the S10 that's going to complete the fuel cell install, which is going to be in the upcoming video. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you set up over here on the table, so stick around and let's get started. So I got you set up over here on the table to look at what we got today. I did order 8 AN 20 foot of the Evil Energy PTFE hose. Now this 8 AN is the size. You can get it in 4, 8, 10, 12. It goes all the way up to radiator hose size, 16. There's many, many sizes of this. So what is PTFE hose? Basically, it is a polytetrafluoroethylene liner inside of a stainless braided jacket, either nylon or you can get stainless outside cover as well. Basically, it's like a Teflon or a plastic liner in here. So what are the advantages of using this over like regular conventional rubber hose? That would be the fact that you can use many different various types of corrosive materials and fuels through this hose, being diesel, you could use gasoline, E85, even power steering fluid. And in some instances, I have heard of people, I've never personally used it, but I have heard of people using this stuff for AC air conditioner lines. So there's many uses for this type of line. You will require to purchase special fittings. These are called AN fittings, and the type that goes on PTFE uses what we call an olive. So if you look at this, you slide this off, this is called an olive. Some guys call it a ferrule, which is perfectly fine. There's different types of jargon out there for different things, and I would know what you were talking about if you said put the ferrule on here. I know that. So the AN refers to its Army Navy, and that's the type of spec. Now you've got JIC for hydraulic lines, which has a different degree of flare, and the tolerances on AN are tighter. When they came up with that Army Navy specification, it had a little bit tighter tolerances on the fit up of the fitting over a JIC. So the disadvantages of using this type of hose over rubber is, one, it's a little more costly. So you have to buy the hose, you have to buy the special fittings, some tools you might need, and I'll show you all that here in a second. But the other thing is the bend radius. The biggest disadvantage to me, because it's easily to kink, and you see I've kinked this, and I'll go into more detail about this later. But in looking at this, you're going to find that it's a lot cheaper to buy a roll of hose, especially if you buy from Evil Energy. They will send you the hose and a ton of different fittings, 90s, 45s, straights, all kinds of fittings and kits. All I needed was a hose. I had plenty of fittings. But in looking at that, what tools you're going to need, when I first started, I didn't have these nice aluminum AN wrenches. So I used just your standard adjustables, and I would tape the jaws up to keep from scratching it. If you're not worried about scratching the fittings when you put it together, these adjustables with no tape will work just fine, but I did invest in some nice aluminum wrenches. If you're using a vise, you can purchase these vise jaws that are magnetic. They lock into your vise like this and give you multiple holding points to put it together. This last hose I make for the S10 over here, when we make it, I am not going to use these vise jaws. I'm just going to sit down and use my hands and tighten it with that. You'll need some kind of tool. Either this is just a plastic trim remover tool, or you can use just a small flathead screwdriver. And that's when we get our measurement on our hose. We've got to take the jacket, the outside jacket, away from this liner here, so that our ferrule or our olive will go down inside of there, and I'll show you that when we make it. Now, how do you cut it? I use a regular cutoff wheel. Now, it does create a lot more debris when you use one of these, but I see, or my experience, it gives me a lot cleaner cut with a cutoff wheel than it does trying to use a pair of cable cutters. Now, I have seen guys use cable cutters, and when they cut it, it is going to smash the end of this thing in. And it may be that I have a cheap pair of cutters. These are just Harbor Freight cable cutters, and they don't cut this stuff for me. If I purchased a set that may be sharper, maybe that would work. I don't know. But that's what I use. And if you use a set of cable cutters, you're going to need this tool. And a lot of times you'll get this tool with the hose and fittings that you order from Evil Energy. So basically that's what I use. When you cut it, you're going to want to wrap it with a wrap around of tape, and that keeps your stainless and your nylon or stainless cover from flaring out on the ends. So I put one wrap of tape around there. And I usually put a little drop of oil or grease or white grease or whatever on these threads right here, because it is aluminum and they are easy to gall up or strip, and it doesn't take much with your hands. So some other things that I would recommend purchasing, whether or not you purchase all the tools that I have, I would recommend purchasing some caps and plugs. So anytime that I've got an open area exposed on my fittings or on my fuel rails or whatever I'm working on the tank over there, if I've got something left open, I'm going to put a cap in it or a plug. And then if I've got a fitting that is open, I'm going to put a cap on it, because you never know when you drop the end of it in the floor, you could get dirt in here, contamination, and that could get in your fuel system. So I always take old trusty air hose and blow it out, clean it out with maybe some brake clean. So that's going to get us to the part of the video where we actually make the hose. So I'm going to go over here on the truck, measure what I need. I will come back, and when I get to the point where I'm cutting it, I'm going to set you up. We're going to cut the hose. We're going to flare the braided stainless steel covering out away from it, put the olive in, put the fitting on, and get it on the truck. And I'm going to give you some other tips and tricks that I found out while making these PTFE hoses during my experience with the S10. So stick around and we'll make a hose. Okay, we got our line marked on our hose. I am using my vise jaws. Now you could cut this by holding it, but for the video, I'm gonna put it in the vise. Now, when you mark your line, something I do is I try to put my tape center of my line that I've made. Especially if you're doing tight fit ups and you need it to be exact, what you can do is put your tape on there and start you a line down the tape. And I tear off my tape, and I want just about one round, especially if you've got a really thick tape, because it'll make it hard to get your fitting on there. So I'm going to wrap this around, get it to the mark right there, and we'll try to make a good smooth cut. Don't cut into your nylon braid. And there we go. So let me get this cut, and I'll show you how to get the fittings on there and what to look for when you're putting the fittings on there. Don't forget your gloves. And I always, if you're using a cutoff wheel, PPE, I use a face shield. So here we go. So my tape almost came off. I'll have to push that back down. And you may want to wear gloves, because if you'll look, those fine stainless steel wires can get in your finger. Ask me how I know. But look what the cutoff wheel does. Notice how it leaves some traces of plastic or PTFE in there. I take a utility knife, and I just what I'll do is I'll cut that out, and then I'm going to blow my hose out. Then we'll put our fitting on here and we'll get it started. I'll show you how to flare this out. So let me get this flushed up here, cleaned out, blowed out, and we'll put the end on it. Okay, we got it cut, cleaned out, blowed out. Now it's time to put the end on here. I typically don't have my tape come off like that. I'm guessing it's a good thing it did, so I can show you in the video. But you're going to want to put your end on here, just kind of work it on there. And this one's going to be a little difficult because I got my tape screwed up, but now we got it on there. We can take our tape off. It's going to be difficult with these gloves. Good thing to to wear these gloves because those little stainless steel wires will bite you in the finger. So let me get this tape off. Can't get to my fingernails in these gloves, so it's kind of hard to take it off. All right, the next step is to put the ferrule or the olive inside on the liner, on the PTFE liner. So what you're going to want to do is take your olive, and notice I've got extra here. Like I said in the first of the video, you want to get you a few of these because you will mess these up. You will compress it and it may not be like you wanted, or you may have to take it off. And once you take these ends off, you have to have a new olive. So in preparing to put the olive on, what I mentioned before, you can use a plastic tool, but you're going to want to get in between the liner and the stainless steel braid that is on around the PTF liner. You want to get in there and prise it out. Now, I can show you, you can use a small screwdriver, but just be careful. If you insert this screwdriver in here, be sure you pull away from the PTFE liner. Don't pry into the liner with the screwdriver. So now that we've got this ready, let's go ahead and put the olive on and get ready to seat the fitting together. So the way I do it is once I've got it where I want it, cut where I want it, I put this on here, and you're going to notice, get it around here where you can see, you're going to notice that it's not going to fit just flush all the way around. So what I do is I get it started, if I can get you in the camera, on one side, and I take my little screwdriver and I just kind of help it in there, and it'll just pop right in just like that. You may have seen it, you may not, but you can probably press this on with your hand. I usually have a block of wood or the table and just press it on there, and it doesn't take much pressure. When it bottoms and stops, you'll feel it. Don't just keep trying to drive it, because you want this PTFE liner. The critical assembly step here is to make sure that liner is flush. It should be level when you cut it. If it's got an angle on it, it could leak. So make sure that it's flush all the way around. So the next step that we're going to do, let me run over here to the truck. I left my fitting on here. Is you're going to take your fitting, and I like to use a little drop. Like I said, I use 3-in-1 oil to put on the threads. Just so it's a smooth installation. You're going to press this down in here. Well, another step you can use when you've got your tool, if you use one of those crimpers or those cutters, cable cutters, you can use this tool to reflare the inside, and that one's nice. It feels good, real smooth, so looks good. So let's put this in here. And you're going to want to start this by hand. So this thing will slide right up. Hold your fitting down, make sure it stays flush on top of your olive. And you're going to want to start this by hand. It should be very smooth. If it doesn't feel like it's smooth, you can turn this by hand and strip these threads when you first start. You'll tear the threads off the first few threads because it is aluminum. So now that we got it started, I won't put this in the vise. I'll actually just take my 2 wrenches and I'll put them on here, and we'll get this tightened up. So let's get this tightened up. Okay, we got it assembled, blowed out, cleaned out, capped, and ready to install on the S10 to finish out the fuel cell install on the truck. A few tips and tricks before we leave. Again, if you use the tape and adjustable wrench method, you can invest in an inexpensive paint marker. If you got a show car, you can actually go in here, you can see, probably a glare, but I did, even with these wrenches, you can see that I skinned my fittings up. So that's what that paint pen's for. Color over it and you'll never know it. Good idea. If not, you're not worried about it, put it on the vehicle and run it. Always remember to cover your ends. Even with some cheap painter's tape, you're going to drop the ends. The ends are going to drag in the floor. Don't get contamination in here and cause yourself problems. Either invest in a roll of cheap painter's tape or some plugs and caps to go on your fittings when not in use. Now, one big thing that I'm going to mention before I leave, notice that I've got these spare olives, or if you want to call them ferrules, we call them ferrules. Always buy the olives that are the manufacturer fitting. Make sure they're the same. Don't mix and match brand X olive with brand Y fitting. You will cause yourself headaches and leaks, and you'll be chasing your tail trying to figure out what's going on. Some of these things are different, so pick you up some extras because you are going to mess some of these up, I promise you. But the more you do, the better you'll get. These are inexpensive. Don't mix and match. The last thing that I'm going to use or show you is these hose separators. These are 8AN. It allows you to run 2 hoses side by side. And I'll pop a picture up right here and show you under my truck. This is the S10 I'm working on. It is the fuel pump photo. You can kind of see it in the top of the picture. And you can see the hose separator. That's what those are for. So I'm also going to use these. I'm going to take and drill this out to a 1/4 inch bolt. And I'm going to put it on the frame rail and bolt it all the way through and clamp it together. And it'll hold these hoses and keep them from vibrating inside the frame. I've got these running down the frame rail. So that's what we're going to do. That hose is going to allow me to finish out my fuel cell install. That's going to end out this video, but if you want to see that fuel cell get installed on the S10, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave. If you like this video, hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.